the hot topic for most risk managers right now is AI, right?
Okay.
And trying to wrap our heads around how that is going to impact us as an institution. We just recently hired a VP for AI, and I'm looking forward to see what she brings to the table for George Mason University.
Welcome to WTW's U of Risk podcast series, your campus for all things risk and insurance in the public sector and education.
Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of WTW's U of Risk, our Wire series. This is our Women in Risk and Education, formatted for your listening pleasure to make sure that you can get the dynamic perspective of some of the most preeminent female risk managers in the United States as a part of our colleges and universities and higher academic educational centers of excellence. I have a distinct pleasure of having with me today Sam McClelland from George Mason University. I'm so excited about what she's going to be able to share from her personal experience and background to be able to give her perspective on the things that you want to be aware of as a risk manager for a higher education institution and some of her ideas and concepts about what makes for success in this business. Sam, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I really do appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me, Twain. I've been looking forward to talking to you about risk management and hope today goes well for both of us.
I'm sure it absolutely will. We always like to have a little fun on this. We like to keep it very relaxed and open. So let's just start with some of the basics. If you don't mind, just please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your school.
Well, again, I'm Samantha McClelland from George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia. I've been with the university now about 24 years. George Mason is one of the state institutions in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We actually have our biggest enrollment right now, 47,000 students at George Mason. That's on and off campus.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot of people.
A lot of people.
So if you don't mind, tell us specifically, what's your title and your role in risk management at Mason?
I'm currently the director. I'm the newly appointed director as of this year. I have been working in risk management for 17 years of the 24 years at Mason. My predecessor retired, and I said, okay, I think I might be ready to do this.
Okay.
So I became the director back in, like I said, January of this year, and it's been a whirlwind of different experiences, things that I had not delved into before.
Okay.
But being the director has been also enlightening as a leader. Okay. So
that's very interesting. And that dovetails quite perfectly. Basically, when you think about the fact that so many people get into certain professions, and even particular in our industry, and they want to go from, I just started, to being the risk manager. And you just indicated that there was some time in that evolution for your professional path. What was your roles prior to becoming the risk manager for Mason?
The first year I started in student services.
Okay.
So I did programming for diversity programs and services. Just the programming for all of the student population, whether it's Black History Month, Latino, Hispanic Heritage Month, Native American Month at that time. So I did a lot of programming with the students. I had direct contact with the students, and they relied on me. I was the mama figure. Like, they would come in the office and I'd feed them and, have conversation and things like that. As I got a little older, that late night planning for student services, I said, I'm going to leave that to the young folks.
Okay.
Let me look into something different. So I started in risk management after being in student services for about 7 years. And I was the risk control manager. So I did all the claims.
Okay.
I dealt with the claims and managing the staff. Okay. So that was my day to day. So once becoming the director, I learned that managing staff is quite different than being in that leadership position. I am more apt to taking care of them as people.
Okay.
And leading them in the right direction. So, that's been my journey. Student services, risk control manager, handling just day-to-day claims and things like that. Now being that leader for a group of professionals in risk management.
Do you believe that continual evolution in your participation in the risk management of the school has made you or impacted you in any way as a risk manager now and director of risk management? And if so, how so?
It has impacted me. Like I said, I took for granted my director at the time, that she had all of these things she was juggling and still trying to be a leader, right? I just said, I leave it up to her. She has it. I did my part and I left everything else. I didn't think about the weight that was on her shoulders.
Gotcha.
Until I sat in that chair.
Never until you walk in someone else's shoes,
Exactly,
huh?
Exactly.
Now, can you describe for me the composition of your office in terms of how many staff do you have within risk management? Because you just mentioned you have a large format, an expansive portfolio of concerns, exposures. What does the structure of your organization's risk management office look like?
Well, let's start from when I started in risk management. I came in and there was the director, and she had hired me. I was the first full-time person that she hired to work with her. She was a solo risk manager. So I came in as a full-time risk control manager to do the claims. After that, we saw we actually needed an administrative support person. So we hired another full-time person at that time. So it was an office of 3.
Okay.
As the university grew, because we are a fairly young institution, as the university grew and things happened around the world, different things impacting 9/11 and, how that started to impact that DC area.
Correct.
We needed someone just to handle claims while I started handling other things, for the university, as med mal and student travel and risk assessments and things like that. So we hired a claims examiner.
Okay.
So claims examiner, administrative support person, myself, and then the director. Then we saw that as the university continued to grow, we needed like another part-time admin person because things were just coming at us and we couldn't.
Volume-wise, it was impossible to keep up with.
So now we currently have, I have a risk control manager, the young man that took my place. I still have my claims examiner. And because of how things work out in university and money and budgets get cut, I lost my administrative support altogether.
Oh, wow.
So I don't have an administrative support person anymore.
So what kind of advice would you give to some of your counterparts and peers who sometimes I talk to other schools, they're struggling with the size of their staff and keeping up with that volume? You've obviously dealt with it on a very personal level.
Yes.
What sort of, if you can think of any tips or advice, would you provide to your counterparts at other schools who are that solo person risk management office, or maybe one person, no support staff?
Right.
What would you give them?
All you can do is what you can do.
Okay.
Maintain, but don't burn out. Collectively with the team that I have, we check in on each other regularly. I check in on them regularly because I don't want a burnt out staff.
Sure.
So we do what we can do. If there's some hot button items that's going on, we deal with that and we put some things to the side. But it's important to always check in.
Right.
Because it's easy, especially in risk management and the way society is evolving, and risk is just, it's a jump off at any given time. You need that personable feeling amongst your staff, and don't continue to throw things at, if you have a staff, don't continue to throw things at them. Check in, keep a balance, keep a healthy balance. And also, I get to the point where I check in with them individually, even about what's going on at home, because things are going on in our lives as well.
True.
So if someone's not doing well there, they're not going to do well for me in the office.
So you recognize you're a leader of people and not robots.
Exactly.
Wonderful. Well, that certainly helps, especially where, like you said, you have to humanize the reality of our situations. Our staff has challenges, can be personally and professionally, and you're doing the right thing. I think it's a little bit of an emotional intelligence and leadership that you're demonstrating. So that's very well put. I think that, and you tell me if this is correct, I'm just assuming, but I would presume that there are also, certain practical things like trying to I don't know, did you all try to engage or develop risk owners around the school who weren't a part of risk management, but like participated with safety, things like templates for insurance documents, steps like that to minimize some of the administrative back and forth?
I have a dynamic young man that's working for me right now.
Okay.
His name is Marcus, and he's fabulous. He understands risk, but this is his chosen career.
Okay.
He's a young man, late 30s maybe, but he's on fire for risk management. And him and I have sat down and we talked about implementing just that, teaching other risk owners around the university how to manage risk so everything doesn't always have to come to us to resolve, giving them the steps and tools that they need.
Right.
So we are developing where he's actually going to start going around and actually talking to folks and educating them on risk in their own particular units. We have a documentation for them to fill out as well. So, but that's what we're implementing now under my administration as a risk director.
That's interesting because I think that's important because so many people are facing that challenges. As I talk to more schools, they're asking me, like, Twain, one of the challenges we face is just resources. I mean, because risk management as a discipline, as well as a practical necessity, has become so expansive that there are so many times that the risk managers or risk management decision making has been brought into the strategic enterprise and thought process of the entire organization. And so people are like, well, let's ask risk management. Well, there's only so much time in a day where you can respond to everything that's going on. And you said 47,000 students. And how many campuses?
We have 3 campuses in the States, and we have a campus in Korea as well.
So you're not busy. You don't
of course
have anything
not.
going
Absolutely
on.
not. But we're doing a road show, and that's what we're naming it. It's a road show.
Okay.
Taking it on the road.
All right. I love it. I love it. So what kind of things bother you? What kind of top concerns would you say? Things that keep you up top of mind when it comes to what you see on the horizon for risk in higher ed?
Let's see. I was thinking about this question, and I would say as the hot topic for most risk managers right now is AI, right?
Okay.
And trying to wrap our heads around how that is going to impact us as an institution. We just recently hired a VP for AI, and I'm looking forward to see what she brings to the table for George Mason University.
So let me be clear. You just said you hired a VP for AI, specifically
for AI.
Interesting.
So I'm interested to see what she's going to implement. What does that mean?
Right.
You know, when you get such a position, what do? We have our IT team, and we've developed some regulations around AI, the do's and don'ts for some students and our faculty and things like that. But how is she going to advance that for us?
Okay.
Because we do have concerns about students being honest in their efforts in submitting documents, papers, and things like that. How much of it can our faculty use without it not being originally them? Although it's a benefit, because as I look toward helping risk management utilize AI, it's beneficial.
Right.
You know, because you can do all these trend analysis in an instant, where we had to do all that manual work before, you know, looking through our claims data history and things like that. So there's some benefits, some great benefits to it, you know, and then there are the not so great benefits for the
double-edged component of advancements in technology, because that's what happens, right? All the advancements usually come with an up and down.
Right. So I'm wondering what this new person is going to bring that will enlighten us as a university, help us as a university, and limit our liability. Okay.
Good deal. Anything else you thought about that's just like, I'm not sure how this is going to work out in the future?
What keeps me up? For me, keeps me up at night is because I'm a new director of risk management, is just making the right decisions on a daily basis. It literally keeps me up at night. Like, did I give them the right guidance?
Sure.
Am I going to make sure the university is not kind of hanging out there?
Right.
Or thinking about new ways in which to implement something new to keep us safe.
Right.
And I'm sure that's going to mellow out for me in a few years as I kind of get this seat, get comfortable in the seat. But those are the things I think about. Have I done the right thing?
Right. Well, first of all, I appreciate you sharing that and the vulnerability with our listeners, because I think it's important for other people to recognize that this is not an easy discipline. And in a lot of respects, you are making what are educated, but still guesses about what and how you should handle a situation. Now, to be certain, sometimes there's some absolute rights and wrongs. But at the end of the day, a lot of what we do is so strategic in nature and can be philosophically debated back and forth that you're doing the best that you can with the information provided to you. And I do underscore that. The information provided to you at the time. And that doesn't mean it's going to be the same tomorrow. So, I mean, I was a risk manager for multiple cities for over a dozen years. And so I can tell you that you're right. Sometimes, so I'm going to tell you, it doesn't necessarily always go away. Well, you're going to get a new situation. I promise you. Just as you get comfortable, there's going to be a new dynamic that shows up where you're just not as certain if the answer you gave was the best one.
I'm always thinking outside the box, trying to, to find a better way to do something, or that specific way. It has become tiring but intriguing for me as well. The larger things, those emergency type things, I can handle it. I can get in there and do the things I have been taught to do. I have my former profession, I was a police officer. Okay. So that plays into for me, I think, being a risk manager as well. So the emergency things, I jump on it, right?
So
it's those little
holding
things.
My tongue. I'm like, pause, time out, wait, hold up, shut the front door. Wait a second. Well, I didn't know about Sam, the police officer. So talk to me about this. How long were you in law enforcement?
I was a police officer in Newark, New Jersey for 3 years.
And
in my younger days. Newark, New Jersey.
So this wasn't no one stop sign town.
No.
You've been out there in the streets.
Yes. Gun toting I was.
Yeah, and very impressive.
Yeah.
So
it did set me up for this career.
How do you feel like, if at all, that has impacted your perspective? Because, I mean, a lot of risk is dealing with safety.
Yes.
Right? You happen to be in, obviously, the D.C. metropolitan area. We all know that is obviously a persistent target of all kinds of activity.
Yes.
You have terroristic concerns, all that good stuff of that nature. So how does that impact your outlook on safety as a risk manager?
We're always keeping ourselves aware of what's happening in our area because we have political concerns as well. That keeps me wondering, what's next? Even when the pandemic occurred, we were one of the leading universities, trying to get a handle on the pandemic. Working in that metropolitan area brings so many diverse risks because we have a population of people that come from all over, dealing with the international concerns that we've had recently. We had some unrest at campus. Nothing large happened on our campus, but we had some students that had a little unrest. So we had to prepare ourselves for that as well. Make sure our students were feeling as though they were being heard and taken care of, but also keeping everyone safe.
Right.
So I understand that.
Right.
I understand the safety of people.
Okay.
Keeping our students safe, making sure folks have level heads, so having discussions with our students so they can have a voice. And that's a part of keeping them safe, so they understand that, we're in this area where we may be faced with adversity and things that may occur, but we don't always have to address it with anger.
Very well stated. Very well stated. There's a lot of times where, again, you all have very sensitive roles and positions to play. And when we have a geopolitical turmoil and a stage that's set, and again, you in particular where you're located, right outside of D.C., I got to imagine it's pretty challenging. So I'm just impressed with the fact that you used to carry a gun and handcuffs. I had no idea. So I'm going to be very careful with my last two questions that I asked, because I don't want to
tread lightly.
Tread lightly. Okay. All right. So, okay, here we go. Sam the cop. Okay. One of the things that you just made me adjust my entire perspective on this dialogue is that you've seen humanity in some of the most base sense of the word in terms of being out there. I've done a lot of work with law enforcement as a former prosecutor in D.C. as well. So I worked a lot with D.C. Metropolitan Police. What do you find to be the most challenging with balancing what you've seen out there in real life firsthand, dealing with some of the most challenging people of society, versus being in your professional role now and having to say, listen, not everyone's like that. They don't have all of these intentions, and it's not exactly going to go that way. How do you find that a challenge to balance that sometimes? I
do find a challenge at times because I'm a Black woman raising a Black child, a male child at that. And I know what he's been faced with. I know the conversations that I have with him about leaving out or going into the world as a Black man. Those are real concerns for me and my culture. But I also, sitting in the seat that I'm in, working with students, diverse students all over, coming from everywhere, I try to empathize with people from where they come from or what they may have gone through, or so listening a lot instead of putting my own personal beliefs or anything on anyone else. I listen to them. That's even with colleagues, not just students. I listen to people. I think that comes from my background as in law enforcement. Everything is not always what it appears to be.
Very much so.
So that has been something that has helped me through life in general. You know.
I appreciate that. That's a very healthy perspective to maintain. And I think that brings a different level of value to your role as a risk manager. So I'm excited to have learned that. And I'm certainly going to mess with you about that later now that I know it. And so do the listeners at this point. If they didn't know, and you know, Sam was the cop.
And every bit of my 5 feet tall self.
All right. So listen, I'm going to ask you this final question before we wrap up. Do you have any special advice you'd like to give to any of the upcoming people who are thinking about participating in risk management, particularly from a higher education standpoint, as a female risk manager, if that's their desire and goal? Do you have any special advice you'd like to give?
I think I would like to say as most risk managers that I've talked to over the years, coming into risk management, I didn't even understand what it was, what risk management did, or anything like that. In the 17 years that I've been in risk management, it has grown leaps and bounds. You know, I would like to have it be a part of more of a curriculum and a degree for people to earn, because this is a career. I never thought this would be my career. It is a wonderful field to be in. And for any young people coming up, you know, I think extending or searching your mind about that, because you get confused. I have a 37-year-old. He's like, I want to do this. I want to do that. You know, I'm even introducing him into insurance and risk management right now. And he had no idea the depths of what risk management was all about. So I would say, look into it. Ask some questions. If you have someone that says they're a risk manager, ask questions. Find out what it's all about. It is a great field where you are always challenged. You know, and you want to challenge yourself on a regular basis. That's what life is about, you know. And I would like to see, like I said, institutions have more of an educational component for risk management, not just a specialty place you go to and you get a arm or you do this. I think it should be in every institution at somewhere, and teaching risk management as a career. because it has been exciting for me, and I look forward to a few more years before I retire.
Good deal. Good deal. Well, that is a very impressive background. I tip my hat to you. Well, listen, you have been hanging out with Twain Duckworth and Sam the Cop McClelland, George Mason's risk manager. We're so excited. Thank you for participating with us. We are certain that you got something out of this. I know that I did. This has been another episode of WTW's U of Risk Wire series, our Women in Risk and Education. Thank you so much for joining us. Please have a wonderful day and come back and listen out for our next episode.
Thank you for joining us for this WTW podcast featuring the latest thinking on the intersection of people, capital, and risk. WTW hopes you found the general information provided in this podcast informative and helpful. The information contained herein is not intended to constitute legal or other professional advice and should not be relied upon in lieu of consultation with your own legal advisors. In the event you would like more information regarding your insurance coverage, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. In North America, WTW offers insurance products through licensed entities, including Willis Towers Watson Northeast Incorporated in the United States and Willis Canada Incorporated in Canada.